We're honored today to meet one of the greatest American actors in history. It's a funny story about Jon Voight. He's an eclectic kind of guy. He does things the way he wants to do them. He has been doing these things for so many years now. It's hard to put a label on him. As a matter of fact, we were just honored to have the opportunity to talk with him today about some things maybe he doesn't always get to talk about when he does these interviews for all of his great movies that he does. They write up in Wikipedia about you, sir, and they say you're not only a distinguished actor, American actor, not only the Academy Award and Golden Globe recipient, but also just a very broad range actor. And we thought of that, and we said, that he's sort of like the Beverly Sills of acting. I mean, you've got this incredible range of ability, and it starts with many years ago. But at any rate, tell us, if you will, was there ever a time that you didn't want to be an actor, or did you always want to be an actor?
When I was a young fellow, which was in Yonkers, New York. I grew up in Yonkers, New York. It was about 20 miles north of the city. I had a wonderful dad, and a wonderful mother too. I think you can always attribute everything to your parents. Certainly I can. But my dad was a great fellow. He's a golf professional, and he was a great storyteller. And we used to listen to stories that he would tell. He'd lie down in bed with the three boys. I was the middle child, and at an early age we would listen to stories. And then my dad loved movies, so he'd take us to the movies. Well, early on I wanted to be an artist. Then I saw movies and I said, oh, I'm obsolete. This is the real deal. So I kind of fell into a sadness for a long time that was the truth of it. But eventually, I was, little by little, in 8th grade, my classmates had wrote a play, very talented group of people, and it was a musical, and they asked me to do the comedy lead of the play, which had also to do with the emceeing of this piece, which was a musical pastiche,
Now, wait a minute, you're like 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah, 12,
is that right?
12 years old, yeah.
Wonderful.
So I wrote this, I didn't know why they came to me. Probably because I was a funny kind of kid, I always liked to make people laugh and stuff. But then when they came to me, I was very serious about it. I said, well, I'll consider this and I'll talk to you in the morning, I sounded like an executive, from Park Avenue or something. And then I took it on, and I really, when I look back, I was very sophisticated about it. I wrote my own little comedy stuff, and I wrote a character that was funny, and then I wrote little pieces just to go in and out to keep the thing moving, And
what about the parents? Were they watching this whole thing go down?
Well, my mother was the substitute teacher that came in for our teacher, and she actually directed the play. When we thought we were going to have to abandon the play, she came in and she said, "Well, let's keep it going." And anyway, so it was a big success. I was a big success. In that area, but I didn't really think of myself in that area. Immediately after that, I went back to playing golf and playing football. Or whatever
I was going to
doing,
ask you that. Your dad's a golf professional. Yeah. I mean, how bad is the bar? How high does it have? Did he set the bar for you boys to go play golf?
Well, in our case, he was a wonderful person, as I've said. And he was very gentle with everybody. He never pushed anybody to do anything, if anybody got out of line, he was tough, but properly so, But he would just encourage you, and he didn't really demand anything of you. I was a pretty good golfer. My brother Chip was a very good golfer, and my brother Barry now is a better golfer than the both of us, because he took it up much later and he enjoyed it more. But we weren't great golfers. I think my brother Chip was the fellow who had the most talent. And I was getting away with a lot of, but I didn't have a long game, and I could
Were you
score
encouraged
pretty,
to go on the
I
tour
could
to
score
become a
pretty good.
professional?
No, I kind of gave it up myself. I gave it to from the years of 12 years old to 17. I played golf, and everybody thought of me as a very good golfer, you know. But I really wasn't that level, that professional level, because I'm competitive and I want to be the best at whatever I do and all of that stuff too.
But you've been playing all your life, haven't you?
No, I haven't. I gave it up after that.
Did you?
When I was 17 years old, I went off to college. I gave up golf. I got into other things, and then finally, when I determined to be an actor, which was after late in my college life, the last year or so, just in the nick of time, I found out what I wanted to do, and I went to New York to learn to act, and that's been my love ever since.
All right, now there's a little spot here in your career I want to just make a little quick segue to.
I want to talk about other things too.
Oh, absolutely. But one of the quick segues I want to make on this is that your first gig really was the playing Puck in Midsummer Night's Dream. That's the rumor.
No, that's
that came in later.
That's, I tell you, I don't know where they got that from. That's completely, you know, that's a.
Erroneous.
Erroneous, yeah, and it's been, and I don't know who put that into my biography, but that's Wikipedia. You know what I mean? You got to be careful. I should actually call those guys, rewrite. You know, get the.
Well, were you in Sound of Music
proper.
though?
I was in Sound of Music.
Okay.
And I did, and then I went to acting school for a couple of years in New York, and I came out and I did A View from the Bridge, which was my first big. Dramatic part, and it was, you know, it kind of set the standard. It was with Bobby Duvall played the leading role in A View from the Bridge, and I played the second lead, and it was a wonderful role because I played this young boy from Italy, so I had to have an accent and be convincingly that fellow. And he was kind of a clumsy colt in a way, and that's the way I described him to the director. I said, this guy's got to be kind of a peasanty, kind of clumsy, coltish kind of guy stumbling over himself. I can play the latter part, but I don't know if I can play, you know, I don't, you probably get somebody's little, he said, that's it, you described the role, go do it. And when he said that, I said, yeah, that's exactly right. I did describe the role, and that's,
one of
I'm
the
an
things,
actor, let me go do that.
One of the things I will tell you as just a fan, okay, over the years that we've noticed about you is the genius of Jon Voight is his ability to go across the board in so many different kinds of roles.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at Joe Black in Midnight Cowboy, and then you turn around and look at Reynolds over in Enemy of the State, I mean, there's no comparison at all. I mean, that's how broad that is in the spectrum.
I think it goes back to my drawing. I used to draw characters, and I like to draw portraits and stuff, and I was interested in people. So I had that visual need to change myself somehow, and then I early on discovered that I liked to play other characters. You know, my father, when I remember back, my father used to say, son, go get some wood out of the, you know, back. And then I would go into this kind of dopey character who couldn't distinguish between wood and a vacuum cleaner, you know, and then we'd come back with the vacuum cleaner. And then we'd do this little act, but it was partially my father's irritation that I was playing this dummy, you see. When he'd tell me to do something, I'd do it wrong for a laugh, you know.
One of the things
this was only later on that I realized I was doing that when I was young.
I want to tell you how effective as an actor you are. Just from a personal observation, I was in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico in 1970, and I'm wearing this cowboy hat. And I saw one of the prettiest girls I've ever seen walking the other direction. And she looked at me and said, hey, cowboy hats are out. And that was because of the role that you played in Midnight Cowboy. That took something because
you mean I didn't put it in?
No, we were out because that was such a cool. I mean, that was an amazing role that you played that set the tone for a whole.
I was hoping you would say the cowboy hats are in.
Well, no.
Come on over here, honey.
I know. No, I failed miserably because I was trying to be Jon Voight. That's my point. I was trying to be that character, and boy, that was a scary situation. But what I'm going to tell you is that was not just that show, but there was some. The thing that made that particular movie pretty special to me too was the music of Harry Nilsson.
Oh yeah.
So, did you know Harry Nilsson? Did you meet him?
I met him during the time he was recording that, and my first introduction to him was from the director of Midnight Cowboy, and when he cast me in the part, he didn't. I was new talent. I hadn't done any movies, so he was a little bit concerned, you know. And then I was doing very well, and he didn't want to tell me I was doing well because he didn't want to make me self-conscious. He never let me see any rushes. He never let me, you know, he never let me. He kept me at a professional distance, all of which I was very happy for. I knew I was doing a good job, and I took the responsibility seriously. It didn't bother me that he was trying to be a little more professional. But in the last days, we were alone with a small crew finishing things up, and he got to be more comfortable, you know.
One of the
and
things
he asked me to see. He asked me, John, would you come over to my room at the hotel and listen to a song? I don't know if it's right, but I kind of got a feeling for it. And he played Everybody's Talking, and I got chills up my arm when I heard it, because it just seemed so eerily right, you know, for
it was
the piece.
unbelievable.
It just was perfect, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, and then they went and looked for all sorts of other things. Bob Dylan wrote "Lay Lady Lay,"
Sure.
as a possible contender. There were many good songs written,
right,
but that one stayed, and I'm glad it did. And Harry was brilliant. Brilliant.
You were. I don't know whether you can say it's luck, but I mean, when you're good, it's educated too. And that is, here you had this great music for Midnight Cowboy, which is award-winning.
Yeah.
And then you got Deliverance, and Deliverance was a.
Deliverance had a
what would be the chances of a banjo thing being a top 40 hit?
Right.
I mean, that's almost impossible, isn't it?
Yeah, it was funny, and that was interesting because John Borman, who directed the film, he's a very homemade kind of guy. John Borman, he got a couple of a great banjo player, great guitar guys who knew each other, and it was down in Georgia, and he set up a session, and he had them play a few numbers, and this was one of the numbers. It's an old song. So he said, play that. That's good. I like that. Okay, bang. So he knocked that off, and then he said, now do variations on it. Do it slower, do it faster, do it, you know, whatever. And then he got in a recording room and finally did some electronic sounds to it, but that was the whole score. They did it in like a 3 or 4 hour session with these two brilliant musicians, you know, and then later on, John's the fellow who took care of his children was named Tony Adams. Who eventually became a producer for a very prominent director in Hollywood for the Pink Panther series and all of that, Blake Edwards, and Tony Adams and I got to be close because I played with the kids all the time with Tony, and he said afterwards, he said, John, they should take this number and they should make a single on it. I said, that's absolutely right, Tony. I mean, we're in cahoots. I said, we got to get this thing out, and he and I pushed it to get it out as a single, and then it got on the charts. It went to the top. Well.